So when they started the blasting, at first it was maybe a little exciting in a strange sort of way. But then they hit the peak, the northern peak, and they literally blew it away.
There it is. Whoa!
They chose one section of the mountain that they felt for some reason they had to put a windmill there, and it wasn't conducive for putting a windmill there. So they blasted and blasted and just blew the side of the mountain off. And it happens to be the part of the mountain that we grew up on and we're used to hiking up and over. So it was very personal, and it felt like a violation. A family member was being hurt, so it was very difficult for our family to watch the mountain being just blown to bits, and with no way of ever being able to put that mountain back together. So knowing that the mountain that my father grew up on for 73 years unchanged was now forever changed.
Last night was brutal. That was really loud last night. When the alarm went off this morning, you could hear them, as loud as the music was on the radio. It's not quiet anymore. And you don't see any more wildlife. And that was one thing we got a big kick out of. Like, we'd go down the street down here just for a ride when we were building. And one day I counted 17 moose. I haven't seen one since those windmills went in. We don't see birds. We don't see, we used to come home and the car lights would pick up shiny eyes out in the field, and a deer would pop up. It was laying down for the night. You don't see that. We haven't seen any wildlife whatsoever.
Many of us have lived here all of our lives, and we're not characterized by lying or fabricating stories. And most people in town, I believe, know our character. And the character of our neighbors.
From everything I've heard, and as I say, I live here and I've not driven around the mountain to even see what sound is like out there. From what I've heard and knowing the people that are there, they have a concern, and a very legitimate concern. They have a noise problem.
Mostly they seem to be worse at night, and I'll get up, take medication, and you could go back to bed. The only comfort you get is if you can fall right back to sleep, which was never a problem. And now I can't get back to sleep because you hear the boom, 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 like sneakers in a dryer, or you hear the humming steady, like a motor running, and it works in your nerves.
It creates a great deal of stress for Perrin and the family, and it shows in our relationships within the home, and at work, and it's difficult to help people understand why that would be. But the disruption of the mills, if it causes loss of sleep and frustration at varying points of the day, it carries over into your relationships. And we've certainly seen that in our home, and many of our neighbors are seeing it in their homes as well.
Healing Hearts Ranch is a therapeutic facility in Mars Hill where children with special needs can interact with farm animals. Animal-assisted therapy has many benefits for at-risk children with a wide range of special needs, including behavioral issues, attention deficit disorder, abuse issues, depression, anxiety, relationship problems, and communication needs. Dr. Nina Pierpont, a pediatrician who has written extensively on the health impacts of wind turbines, says, when turning with the sun behind them, turbine blades cast moving shadows across the landscape and houses, creating a strobe effect within houses that can be difficult to block out. Some people get dizzy, lose their balance, or become nauseated. Pierpont estimates that people most likely to be susceptible to symptoms include those with migraine disorder, those with age-related problems with inner ear function, and children with disabilities, especially autism. The strobe effect also has the potential to trigger seizures in people with epilepsy. The residents of Mars Hill face many battles ahead in resolving their situation, but according to many, the best way to resolve them would have been from the start. Community involvement, thorough education, and third-party documentation are all needed to ensure successful placement of these wind turbines.
If the town had at least taken a straw vote so that people could have voted on whether they wanted the windmills or they didn't, even if the vote didn't count for anything, at least the town would have known the way the townspeople felt. And I myself would have at least been able to have said, well, this is something the town people wanted, I guess I can live with it. But because there was no straw vote taken, nothing to indicate the way the townspeople felt, that's where we feel we've been shortchanged. Now the town wants to buy a new truck. We all have to vote on the new truck, but we couldn't vote on a project of this magnitude, which seems ridiculous.
While we are producing some things, whether it's hydro, whether it's wind, whether it's solar, whatever, and I think those are all responsible ways for us to look to go. I really do. I think that the location of these are, I think that's a little questionable. I think they need to be in areas that don't negatively impact people.
Like a firearm or gun. The gun isn't necessarily bad unless you do something wrong with it. Where they put these, how they put them in, they did a lot of mistakes, and they should be people around here should be compensated for it.
One of the errors that this town made was not educating themselves as quickly as possible on not only the positive aspects of windmills, but the negative aspects of windmills. There was a small group of folks who did try to fight early on. Unfortunately, one of the errors I think that was made early on was that one person had all the information. One person had all the knowledge, and or one or two, and the group didn't have the knowledge or that education so they could stand on their own 2 feet. And what happened at the town meetings, there was that those one or two people would get up to ask questions, and the corporation and the town knew who those people were and either wouldn't call on them or quickly diffuse the situation and had them sit down. Everybody needs to be educated. If you've got a group of people, anyone that's going to be under 3,000 feet, anyone as far away as a mile or a mile and a half, needs to be educated on the negative aspects of windmills so that they can speak for themselves and stay together as a group and have a united front.